everyone. I hope you're doing well. My plan for this video is first to start off with a few terms that I saw on the quiz for this section that may not necessarily be like in this checkup review. And some of them are in the checkup review, but then I can kind of go over them first and then go into the checkup. So the first thing is there's a question on the quiz about a census. A census is all people, okay? So the question asks, like, the town of 10,000 is taking a census, how many people should they ask? That is everybody. It's all 10,000. Okay? A convenient sample. So a convenient sample is a sample that is not representative. It's hard to type and talk at the same time. It's not representative of a group. So, for example, a convenience survey. I wake up and I want to survey the students at STEDM. And I decide I'm just going to survey the McDonough students because they're the first bus that gets there. That may be convenient for me because they're all together, they're the first ones there, and then I can go about my morning, but it's not representative of the group. Another issue with a convenient sample is it tends to attract strong opinions and excludes indifference. Sorry. So an example of this might be, you know those like internet surveys that sometimes pop up while you're watching a video? So say a survey pops up that's like, do you like these cleaning products? Yes, no, whatever. A lot of times, if we don't care, we just ignore. We don't answer the surveys and we move on to our YouTube video. Now, if you've had perhaps an allergic reaction to one of the cleaners, you might participate in the survey because you have this really strong opinion about how much you hate one of them. So it's not representative because you're really attracting people who are very like upset, as opposed to people who just don't care. And then some other questions. There's a question about sample statistics, but not parameter. So in order to do this question, the sample statistic, but not parameter, divide given number by 100. So they're going to give you some number like 1,000, and they're going to say, what is the sample statistic but not the parameter? Just divide by 100 and you'll get your answer. Then we're going to have parameter but not sample statistic. Parameter is the whole population. So if the question gives you the population is 10,000, the parameter is also 10,000. Let's see. Oh, some characteristics of a survey, which we're actually going to see in here. So you one of the things we're going to deal with a lot here, and you can see in question 2 over here. We're going to talk about surveys, observational studies, and experiments, and kind of the difference between the three. Some characters of a survey is that data is gathered and statistical analysis is applied. Okay? So a survey is really like you're asking people questions and then analyzing it. An observational study is you are observing a group but not changing any behaviors. Okay? An experiment, so, and again, we're going to get into this with the checkup, so I won't give too many examples. I'll just move on to that. An experiment, you normally have control groups. So the experimenter has a lot more hands-on manipulation of what's happening. Okay, so let's look at that with this lesson. So those are sort of some terms, some different things that I saw within the course of the quiz that you might come across. And now let's do this. The other part of the quiz will be things like this, where you're stating is something a survey, is it observational, is it an experiment. So hopefully this will be more helpful for those parts. And so for these questions, we want to identify if the method of collecting data was used, which one it was. Was it a sample, an observational study, or an experiment? So you want to read through these scenarios. A scientist is studying the effects of exercise on blood pressure. He studies 50 people who exercise regularly and finds out whether their blood pressures are low, average, or high. Okay? If this was an experiment, he would need to have a lot more control. What we're seeing is that this scientist is sitting back and just watching or observing. So that's kind of what you can think about this observational study is if you're just sitting back and watching a group of people and seeing what their behavior is, that is an observational study. Okay? So it's really like a very hands-off, I'm just watching scenario. Okay? I'll do these three, just so I can kind of talk through each of the different types. A scientist is studying the effects of exercise on blood pressure. He studies 20 people who exercise 5 hours per week, 20 people who do not. He compares the blood pressure of the two groups at the beginning and after 3 months. So what this person is doing is he's really controlling the groups. Our first people, we had people who exercise, but they're not just exercising, it's 5 hours per week. Okay? It's really controlled. He has a lot of caveats and he's invested. When you see someone who's really getting involved with a group of people, they're experimenting on them. It's no longer just seeing what a group is doing, it's saying you have to do this, you have to do that. So an experiment sort of has these very rigid constructs. And number 3. Number 3 here. A scientist is studying the effects of exercise on blood pressure. He obtains a list of patients being treated for high blood pressure. He asks every 5th patient about his or her exercise. He's just asking. Since he's just asking, okay, he's gathering data on them. But he's not really doing any type of study. It's just a survey. So when you're just asking someone questions, it's a survey, a sample survey. When you ask questions, it's a survey. When you watch them and you're just creepy and looking over them, that's observational. And when you get involved and you control the groups, that's an experiment. Okay, so those are our 3 kinds. You'll see a lot of questions on those. These different types of biases, there's 3 types that they have here. Self-selection kind of means you've picked yourself. When you do a survey, what you really want to have is for the person conducting the survey to be able to get a good sample of people. And so if you've self-selected yourself, again, that could lead to that sort of you have a really strong opinion, that's why you're answering. Non-responsive bias, some people may not answer a survey. It's a really big issue when people do like phone surveys, is not being able to get through to landlines anymore. And under coverage means you're kind of ignoring a group. Okay, so I'll do number 4 real quick. A high school wants to determine if the students are satisfied with the new menu items added to the high school cafeteria menu. During homeroom, Miss Conley has 100 seniors fill out a survey of their level of satisfaction with the new menu items. Based on this description, what type of sampling bias has most likely occurred? It's not self-selection because the seniors didn't self-select themselves. Miss Conley chose them. They're not unresponsive because clearly they filled out the survey, but there is an under coverage bias. And that's because, come on, under coverage. And that's because we only asked 100 seniors. We didn't ask the freshmen, we didn't ask the juniors, we didn't ask the sophomores, and there could be far more depending on the size of this high school. We don't really know what the school thinks. It's only the opinion of these 100 seniors, which may not be representative. Maybe these seniors are like at North Point, have like a culinary program, and so they're cooking the lunch some of the times. It may not be most representative. Okay? So go ahead, try number 5 from that. And then this is trying to determine the characteristics that describe our types of data. Kind of a weird setup the way they want you to do these. It took me a second to understand it. So a department store uses a market research survey to determine the types of products various customers are buying. They're doing a survey. So you want to think about what a survey is. It says choose all that apply, and then it has this like characters that best describe a survey. So all of this is just like the setup to the question. And then down at the bottom after answer choices are your choices. It's kind of weird. I don't actually like this format, but I didn't get to make it. So a survey works well with a variety of formats. You can put it in tables and charts is what that means. You could ask lots of different types of questions. Involves studying subjects in their environment which is not controlled in any way. No. They're not in their environment. Okay, that's really the big issue there in trying to describe that one. You're asking them questions, but we don't know, like, they could be at home, they could be filling it out on their phone while out somewhere else. It's not really giving us an environment situation where we're really watching these people. But it may collect facts or opinions, so we could get some information about them. So that's how you would do these questions. It's just trying to think about what each of these characteristics are, okay? And fill them out accordingly from there. And I think it's, try to think about what the relationships are. There's no questions exactly like these on the quiz, so I'm not too worried about it. But just try for 7, 8, and 9 to piece together which ones would go with which types of surveys and try to think through the surveys as best you can. I hope that's helpful. Again, hopefully this is really good for your quiz. You have kind of this breakdown here. It'll be very useful, and I hope you guys have a good day.